Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to another big building video. The term generic level is pretty widely used. Levels that look like every other level, that maybe just don't have much substance. What is classed as generic has changed over time, as modern levels got more popular and are now more popular than old generic design levels. And I just thought, I want to make one of these. I just think it would be funny to throw a lot of stereotypes into one level. I'm just going to call it something random like Cruel Verge Spin. Just a couple of words that sound cool together, nothing more than that. This song is going to be Pulsar by Ocular Nebula. Let's go. By setting the spawn group to number 1, I'm going to do the classic age-old tactic of setting an object up here, just so I can have a custom ground. So I can have a block right here, which I'm going to give group number 2. I'm going to put a move trigger down for that group, which is going to lock it on the X for around 20 seconds. Now when I play, this square will keep us afloat. We, of course, can hide this in the extra settings and just have a custom decorated ground here. I'm going to choose a color for the background, which I'm going to make blank. I'm going to say like a desaturated red. This looks fine. Then I'm going to place down a block, which I'm going to scale to be slightly bigger than the grid. I'm going to give this the color of the background by copying the color here, checking the brightness option, and just dragging it to something like 0.2, which is going to make it the same color but slightly brighter. This is going to be on a layer pretty high up. I'm going to say B1. Then we're going to take this object, we're going to copy paste it, and we're going to increase the size of it ever so slightly. I'm going to go to something like B3 here and change it to another color, which is going to be the background but darker by 0.2. So now we have this square which uses the color of the background to its advantage, and when we copy paste, it will make a bigger shape. I'm going to tweak the colors here just because I didn't get it right first try. We want less contrast. Modern levels usually work best when the colors are pretty chill. Okay, so let's select these two objects and put them on a different editor layer so I can differentiate between the block that we're landing on and the decoration, so I can just make a big platform. I think this platform is also going to go on that moving group number 2. Let's just make sure the star is also hidden so the spawn point isn't there. And now we have a ground here. Okay, now I'm going to make little sections of the blocks that are going to float underneath. This is going to be on editor layer number 2 and group 3 instead of 2. Which is going to have a different X mod. Say 0.4, that's 40% of the player's speed. So it's going to shoot a lot faster along the bottom there. I'm gonna have to extend it out a little bit. This can have a different X mod here. We can put like 0.8, so it moves slower than the other layer above it. So now we kind of have a little bit of variance in our ground. Just to speed things up a little bit, I might just scale up with the lock on, so all of the aspect ratios are kept. And I can make bigger layers, which are going to be spaced below. And this is going to be on group number 5, which I can set to another mod here. So we're just trying to make some pretty interesting shapes on the ground. And I think this kind of works, as long as we add some extra effects to it. So we're going to add all of the moving objects to group number 6. That's going to be the little horizontal and vertical pillars underneath. We're going to put down an area scale, which is going to make it so these objects go down in scale as we get to them on an ease in out. It's going to be pretty long in its length. Targeting number 6 around the player, and as we get there, the object should shrink, which is going to make a pretty cool ground pattern here, I think. Making sure this is touch triggered so it doesn't break anything in the editor, because this trigger is pretty volatile, I'm not going to lie. If you set the scale to super small, we should get some interesting little shapes under the ground, and the pillars don't really work well with it. So we can go select the pillars themselves since we changed the editor layer, change it away from group number 6 and put 7 instead. And this 7 can be a bit bigger on the scale, something like 0.5, number 7. And now we'll see a bit of difference in the ground. I think this is pretty cool. I like the layering on it a lot. I like how these squares overlap each other. I think it works pretty well. Zooming out, this is how it works. You can see the squares are shrinking as we get to them. At the end of the song, we can just select any objects that don't make it onto the screen, which is going to be all of these. I'm also assuming these ones will never make it, so we're going to cut those off. I like how this looks in normal mode. We can do some camera work just to shift it up a little bit. For our objects, we can use the same old squares without any movements on them yet, maybe with a bit less of an outline, which can be a bit brighter too. So we got to think just how we're going to vary the objects enough to where things are going to be nice and visible here. Yeah, that works. Okay, we should layer these objects differently to the ground. So let's go ahead and just select each one here. We can put this on T1, and then we can put the layers behind them on T1 and 1. Just to make sure whenever we place this, it's going to overlap what's already there. We need to put actual hitboxes in them too, of course. We're going to hide those real quick. Okay, now I don't like how these layers are going over the top of the player. We're going to put them on the top of B1 to stop this. Anything on T1 will go over the top of the player. Yeah, this works. Let's give these a group of their own, number 8, which can have their own area scale, which is going to be significantly less of a difference here. The length is going to change slightly. I put this on group number 8. And we want them to scale up as we get there. So it's going to be a bit different here. There we go. There should also be an area move from the ceiling for that same group centered on the player. Stopping as we get there. The length is going to be just 100 this time. It's going to move down 20. Hope it's going to move a little bit to the left. We can probably vary that thing like this. I like that. It's just a little bit difficult to sight read because the length is so short. So we just go in and we increase the length to like 125, something like that. We want this to be sight readable. Now it's going to make little structures. I haven't actually planned out any gameplay. It's probably wise that I do so pretty soon. I'm going to make some spikes now. Let's observe what the scale difference is. We have 1.69 and we have 0.94. I'm going to copy the values of the blocks and put them onto a spike, making sure the base carries over to the detail as well as the scale, which is going to be 1.69. But this spike is going to have no touch on it just because I don't want the outline to have anything to do with the spike. Whoa! I accidentally made the colors different. That looked cool. That looks pretty interesting. If we scale it down to be smaller overall, this could be a pretty cool spike. I like that. We have to scale it down a little bit more just because I don't like that overlap that the two had. And at this point, I think I can just re-enable touch on this spike. Let's see how this looks overall. They might move down a little bit differently to the blocks just because of the variance that I put on the area scale and the move. I think it's cool though. I actually really like this so far. We have to add a cool transition to start off, and we have to turn off glow from those spikes because it was pretty ugly looking for a second there. The simplest way to do it is to just select the entire level, go into extra, and just turn off glow. I'm going to give all of these a group, number 9, and then we're going to move them over to the right so we can have a movement as the level starts, which is just going to go back over 1 second, something like that. Might be a little bit difficult to see the object come in. It feels so rushed. We should probably put sign in out, maybe? Just trying to make it feel more smooth. Maybe sign out, something like that. That's cool. We can actually add even more depth into the level by putting a spike structure on the floor and copying these objects down. Just trying to create a bunch of depth here. I really like this. Both of our background color channels have some sort of modification to the brightness, so I'm just going to make a regular one right here. And I'm going to build just a simple square. It's going to be put on T4 using that color channel. I'm going to put it on a different layer too. Our object that I've made into a pillar right here is just going to cover the level real quick. We're going to give it a group number 10, and we'll shift this off right as the level starts over to the right by about 400, easing out. And now this should just swipe away and give us a clear view of the level. It's not quite perfect, but it's going to work. Now let's select the entire level. Give it don't fade, don't enter. Pretty much just going to copy paste some more gameplay in here. I'm going to put an orb in here too. And behind, I'm going to warp up a circle that's just going to copy the values of these little background objects just to make it fit in with the rest of the design. Generic levels usually don't have anything that pushes their core idea any further. So just copy pasting the same ideas with extra blocks is kind of a must here. And I know it doesn't look that generic, but we just have to make the intro a bit more eye-catching than the rest. That's people's first impressions. You just gotta hook them, and then the rest of the level can just be super simple. Just vary up the structures ever so slightly by copy-pasting down. Also by choosing structures to copy-paste up. Just make the screen look as full as possible, I guess. I don't know. It is also quite satisfying to have a lot of these vertical pillars. It's less work for me. It just instantly makes our blocks more convincing. Don't forget the incredible gameplay copy-paste strategy too. We can even make the gameplay go down to the ground a little bit like this. We can add a background to this, but this is how the gameplay is going to work. No color changes at all so far. We're going to make them very subtle and simple and easily copy pasted. I think this looks cool so far. It's not bad, it just doesn't have much flavor, you know what I mean? Let's make a very simple background to put at the very bottom of our level. Turning off preview mode, we're just going to copy paste this little grid pattern. It's probably the most common background type I see. We're going to add our own little idea to it, but with link controls enabled, let's just copy paste these into a pattern that decreases the brightness every second. Check this out in normal mode. That's quite a lot of contrast. We don't want that much. We want to go like minus 0.12, something that's darker than the original blocks. Let's just copy paste like this, and we can cut off the edges, turning off link controls real quick. Just snip these and these. I don't like that. Thankfully, these were linked. We can just decrease the brightness to like minus 0.16, something like this. Yes, this is much better. You can now clearly tell the background apart. It doesn't move at all though. We're literally just going to slap these on group number 2, which we set to move with the player. There we go. Now it's just sitting there. Then we're going to choose a point. I'm going to choose this square where my cursor is right now. Then we're just going to choose a point. I'm going to say this one. This is going to be group number 11, and the squares are going to be a unique group 12. At the very start of the level, I have added a scale trigger for this background, which is scaling it up by 5 times around that center point. As you can see inside here, it's 12 around 11, 0 seconds to start off with. And as we start, we're going to do a quick, I think, sign in out background. That's going to be 5 seconds long. We'll divide, then find the end of that duration line over here. Right before it ends, we can put a multiplication of around about 10, just to make that a little bit more interesting. So as we start, this background is scaling down, which looks pretty cool. Before that end, it's going to start scaling back up, and it's just going to add a little bit of depth to the background and just make it look a little bit more lively. That movement is so short though. I don't really like it. But you see how the ending works? Okay, we'll add more detail here soon, but what I want to do is focus on the ball part that we're going to make now. My reason for choosing the ball is it's only 8 blocks tall, which means after fading off the background, we have less to decorate. Just gonna make some super basic gameplay over here. We just need it to be easily sight readable and nicely playable with no bugs or anything that can go wrong. This copy pasted gameplay should sync the same, and it syncs well, it's fine. Okay, and then we just transition out into a cube and we just put a jump here, simple. The way people used to make structures light up as you touch them was by giving them a group, putting a pulse trigger like right here, and then making it touch triggered to fit that entire block for that group, just like this, number 13. So if I made that yellow, so as I touch the block, yellow. But you really don't need to do this anymore. It's much more simple with area effects. All I'm going to do is disable link controls, take the top layer of this block and just place another one with the same values except the group. Except on top, I'm going to have this T3 piece of glow, which is going to be background blending, just to make it a little bit glowy and fancy, maybe with a bit of extra hue. We slap that on top of the block and we give it a group number 13. Then you just place an area fade trigger. You put the length something like 40, 50-ish. You make it fade from 0 to full opacity. Put the group in, you center it on the player, and you set it to fade on as you get there. It should just be this easy to create the fading effect when I land. Yeah, this is nutty. I'm even going to take this object, put it halfway in the ground on either side, put that glow effect on the top and bottom, covering the entire ball part. To make it look less tacky, I'm going to give it another group 14, which is just going to scale it from pretty much nothing. I'm going to say like 0.05 on a very long length, getting to its original size as I get there and just centered on the player. Okay, I actually want the length to be much shorter. I didn't realize that at all. I should also just put this on bounce out just to give it more energy on the ground there. There's got to be a sweet spot. Okay, let's just see a normal mode. Ew, this ground looks horrible on top of it, but I actually like the bouncing effect. It's kind of shimmering, you know what I mean? I wonder if I can do some funny stuff just by varying the length and offset, just so it kind of seems a bit more random here. It's something. I don't know if I like it. It's more satisfying the other way for sure. Let's just reset the variance and we can start making a background with these pulsing circles that I'm going to set to the same colors as we have been using. I'm going to go to B3 and 10. That should be fine. Give it a group 15. Warp it down to be super small and then copy paste. Go the layer behind and then set it to that other color. There we go. I'm going to fix the size of that outline. There we go. Then we're going to copy paste, half space down, warp it up to be a bit bigger and then give it a new group 16. Just repeat this process like this until we have pretty cool looking shape that extends all the way down to the ground from the middle of the screen. Ideally, we should have about 10 layers here. I'm going to try my best to make that work. Okay. Then I'm going to copy paste, flip, and just leave it like that. Then we should copy paste and use this every 5 blocks or so. Give it a group to lock on the screen with, which is going to be 25. Probably move it a bit more into place over here and make it fade on. We're going to start with a move trigger on group number 15, which is going to lock onto the x-axis with 0.95 mod for about 20 seconds. I don't actually know how long. We just copy paste, go to number 16, and we change this to an 8.5. We change this to a 7.5 for the next layer. It's gonna get faster and faster as we go down through the layers here. Just go to 0.55. Okay, well I like this. It's just peculiar, I gotta say. I'm gonna create a scaling loop for 25, which I have added to that entire set of objects, and we're just gonna scale down, I think 3 times here. Or should we go layer by layer? I think we should go layer by layer, to be honest. I think that would be more interesting. 15, and then half block 16, and then right before it ends, we should multiply. We're trying to make a generic kind of layering background here. Okay, they get nowhere near big enough. Undo that loop, pretty please. Make this a lot shorter. Take the groups off, and then we just have to make it right at the end of that duration line. Boom. That was the problem that we were having. Loop it now. We have to let each scale finish just so we get that ripple. All that's left is the transition in, which is pretty scary. If I take group 25, which should be the group that everything is on, and just divide it by 100 real quick, we should be able to have a scale trigger that's going to turn everything back like this. Let's see here. Okay, you can see the circles ever so slightly as you're going in like this. So we just toggle them off and toggle them right back on right before they scale on. Having to play with the timings and the easings here. The back out didn't work as I expected it to. This just looks lame. Super short duration time, just so we get a nice smooth transition. There we go. Then we could just start scaling up as we get through the part. Yeah, this works. We just set 25 to an ease in out, 4 second, 100 times scale. And that just should be a simple layering background here. Oh gosh, that happened way too quick. Maybe I can just do a 10 instead. Let's briefly just turn off this scale and just stop the level right here so we can see how much we should cut off. I think we're going to save a lot of objects here. Boom. Boom. We could probably just put some base blocks in here with T1 -1 and then extend it upwards, but have a glow object here that can be stretched vertically. We could put that on 3 times and just whack it in right here. T1, 1, and then we just put the same color but less bright. This block should have a gradient. Yeah, but one thing I gotta do before I playtest is just set the ground to copy the color of the background. Set it to the plain one. We can put the same thing on ground too. And then add the line as background with max brightness and put it on the double thickness. Or actually, I don't know if it's double thickness, but just the line that doesn't fade off. You know which one I mean? You're about to see it on screen anyway. Check it out. Here we go. This should look better. Yes, this looks infinitely better. Awesome. But these structures look fine. We gotta add more detail to them for sure, but I'm just gonna move on. Generic levels are usually built with whatever ideas come to mind, which is why I'm making this section with a white background. We're gonna repeat this gameplay, just going down a little bit in height. Big launch with a green orb. We could just copy paste some green orb gameplay where we just hit the same thing 4 times to the beat. We slow it down so we have less blocks here just for this little section to decorate. We'll probably end the level with a ship section. We should easily be able to place a gradient trigger that is over the top of the level on additive that's going to have maybe a bright red for its primary and darker red for its secondary, something like this. With this gradient set to max, you can see that everything in the level is tinted. Like, this is a black object. Let's try and take advantage of this. We're going to place a square on B4 and Z order number 2, which is just going to be white. And then we're going to scale up very slightly just to create that background layer again. We can make this black, and now you can see it's red because of the gradient. We can just group this and keep creating our objects in an outline like we have been doing. We could just slap down a touch triggered area scale trigger on our start pause real quick, which is going to scale them up as we go past them. So I'm going to put like 1.25, a decent length, and we're going to leave it on this setting, which means as we get close to it in both the X and Y, it's going to scale up when we land. You can see how these structures kind of connect their lines to these objects. I find these types of structures extremely common where you've just got a single color and an outline. Okay, this is cool, but I'm actually just going to prefer an X-based setting on this area scale. I just feel like it's more dramatic to have it done this way. The objects at the top and bottom of the screen weren't getting affected. Now this is better, but the player is getting covered by the gradient. I don't want that. I'm going to set this gradient to be on B2, which leaves B3 space for something else. And what's that going to be? It's going to be another gradient. Now this one is going to be on vertex mode. We're going to put groups in here of 50, 51, 52, and 53. B3. And this is going to invert. If I just set the base and the detail on this trigger to white, you'll see that the whole level inverts, but we don't want the whole level to. We just want it to be on B3 and in a specific spot, which I'm going to mark out using the groups that I set out here. The bottom left is group number 50. Then I'm going to put one like 5 blocks to the right, make that 51. Then up here can be 52, which is the top left corner, and the top right can be 53. Now there's an invert here. Now, as you can see, these gradient triggers are kind of messing with each other. They're not entirely working. What we have to do is increase the ID on this one, and you'll see that there's now a big red stripe. So let's see if we can mess with the colors here and just make it more interesting. I like this faded effect on it. I want to take this gradient, I want to copy paste, build helper, set it to a new editor layer, and just take what's here and just flip it around like this so they meet in the middle. And I'm hoping I can just take these objects, put them on a new group 58. So let's just set up the area move for group number 58, centered on the player. As we're getting there, we want the movement to happen. Let's just say 100 length, ease in out. We want it to move about 5 blocks to the left. That's not how that works. Minus 90. I'm hoping that we can kind of dynamically move that gradient. Yes! This thing is moving all by itself now. This is awesome. And now we can just have a bunch of these just to make the flow of the level a little bit more interesting, make this movement a little less predictable. I'm going to take up a lot of groups, but it's an easy effect that covers up a lot of the level, so I want to do it. We're putting out this level by any means necessary. This looks so sick! sick, dude. I actually love this part unironically. We should just be able to use this saw blade, which is kind of gradient based. Just to create some extra detail here, we can start off with the black layer. Set it to a custom number of degrees, number 30. Just start scaling down. We can make this white. We can increase the layer and just do the same thing once again. Just so we have a saw blade with extra layers to the blocks, just to make them look a bit more fancy. This thing should look pretty neat with the invert effect and stuff. And it looks different everywhere I put it, which is really funny. If you know me, you know I'm not a huge fan of saw blade spam. That's probably why I'm doing it so much. I just think it can make a level look very tacky, but it actually kind of works here. Okay, last part of the level. Just gonna decorate the rest later, as I've been saying for this entire video. We're gonna put down this object that you can't even see because it's white on white. We're actually gonna leave it as white. We're gonna put it on 30-degree rotation. We're gonna put it B4. And for every layer that we copy paste and scale up by 0.03, this is gonna take forever. I didn't think this through. This is not generic in the slightest, dude. This was supposed to be a quick level. We're decreasing by 0.01 brightness, and this is going to be a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of menuing just to get what I want, but I'm copy pasting, increasing the scale, and then adding a slightly more colorful layer that's gonna rotate slightly faster around a slightly different layer. And it's not even gonna look right in the editor until it's done, because every time you make a change with rotations and stuff, it kind of bugs out and resets the editor appearance. You see right here, kind of out of sync, but if I pause and replay, it's a lot more in sync. I did my very best. I really did. I've sat here for genuinely half an hour. We're multiplying the scale by 30 on the X and Y, and then we're going to scale it down when we get to the part. This is so goofy. Holy crap. Oh my god, it actually looks kind of cool. Yo, wait. What we're gonna have to do is place a giant circle inside this object like this, which is gonna have 179. Is also gonna be on white. It's gonna be B1. Then once this object fades on, we can just set the background to be black. And here we go. Now we should just have an infinite outline. Yes! Gonna change the scale on that to be divided by 20, and then we can just have later on in the part an ease in out that makes it scale back up. Okay, let's see. It's shrinking. It should show the red background and kind of give it the illusion that that's the outside. Yes, that's the perfect scale. And then it's gonna zoom back in and become white. Yes! It's gonna work. Okay, simple block design. We scale up, we make it a little bit taller, we make it fit the block. Yeah, that should do. We'll give this a group number 180, and then we're gonna copy paste, move a little bit to the right, give it 181. We should just be able to alternate these lines like so. They don't quite fit. We just have to make them a little bit skinnier. Let's just stretch them a little bit more. We just link this, and these are going to be every single block here. Gimmick is that we move one side from the ceiling. It's going to be group 180. It's going to stop as we get there. Decent length. Easing out and 0 angle. That's what's going to make it special. Now we just put -100 for the other group. Okay. That doesn't quite work how I thought. Increase the length. Should work with a little bit of an offset to the right, just like this. Yes. Let's just lay these underneath the gradient. This should work. We can just hide the blocks. This works. It looks so trippy, though. It's hard to see where the edges of the blocks are, but it's fine. I think for some of the harsher structures, we just have to build up a little bit of a pillar here, just to show that you're supposed to go down. We can also just do little clusters like this. Nice. Yes. Ooh, that is actually quite difficult to see. Hold up. Hold on a second. I don't know about this. Man, I don't want to make this any longer. Oh, we can definitely do an area tint that makes the edges white. Yeah, just to keep the blocks visible here. Hold on. Gotta select all the blocks, give them 182. We've got to tint this color to number 8. Fully, and it's going to be group 182. It's going to stop tinting as we get there because we want the edges to be white. Dude, this is crazy. It's going to like whitewash the edges. Oh my gosh, this looks so cool. Oh man. I wish I used this on a level that has more effort. And then as it fades out, it should look pretty good here. Yes. We just continue this staircase, but it's going to fade off, so this doesn't really matter. Then we just put a touch triggered end trigger that's going to be scaled all the way up, just like this. It's going to fade on a white screen here that's going to lock onto the screen from around about this point, for about 4 seconds, because we want it to stay on top of the player at the very end. We've got to line up the duration line here with where the level ends. We just have to make sure that this doesn't fade at the edges here. Make it invisible at first and just fade it on to reach the end of the level. So that same 2.5-ish. We have to type out our name. We're going to split the text. Let's change the font. Let's just make it a new color, which is going to be like a pale red. You may wonder why this level was called Cruel Verge Spin. Just give me 1 second. We just have to arrange some dots right here. It is a 5-letter word. It is a 7-letter word, and it is a 2-letter word. All will be revealed. We just have to give every single letter in this title a group real quick. Then we start a new cycle from 198, starting with the position of the first letter, which is the last letter of the 7-letter word. The R goes here. The U goes here, for example. We're just gonna keep doing that. The E goes here. Bada bing, bada boom. Oh, we should probably put this all in lowercase, otherwise it's not gonna make sense. The V goes here. We assign move triggers as the level is ending here to move the first letter, 184, to its position, which is gonna be 198. We're going to put this on a back, in, out easing. It is going to be on target mode. The center group ID, I think we can just leave this blank. The target, however, we have to put 198. Let's make this a 3-second movement. This is done. So then we just copy paste and we increase the group numbers by 1 for every single one until we reach 211 on our target. We can use the warp feature to find the center point, which I'm just gonna put like right up over here. Give that 212, hide the center. There will be a static camera to go on that center point as well. So now, as we play and get to the cube section, there will be some text that scales into position. Didn't mean to die. Okay, brace yourself. You're about to see the real name of the level as soon as I leave the ship section. Let's see if it works. Come on, please. Yes! Super generic level. Okay, the text looks so goofy, but we can fix it. We just have to move some of these closer together. We have to start making our decoration for the level. Should just be as simple as placing down a pulsing arrow that's going to have the same values as the blocks, maybe with a little extra hue. We can do some color changes too. I think we could make this part more lively with those. I know even RobTop hates the fact that people use so many jump indicators. And essentially, these arrows are going to move like the rest of the blocks. Yes! Okay, let's go. Okay, additionally, let's add some clouds here. We can just use this one. These can probably be hued the other way, like -30 instead of +30. And then as for the blocks behind them, we can copy paste, move up and to the left, paste the state, and just copy paste, move 4 to the right, 4 down, and 4 to the left. So this is given a pretty clean outline. I really don't like that shade of pink, so I'm gonna make this maybe just a 15 instead of a 30. Probably should keep it on the same side, yeah. We can just place these like we would place saws. I don't know. It seems fun. Simple and fun, and that's what levels should be, honestly. It honestly makes this whole part more dizzy. I wonder if I can just extend some of these blocks down and then get super short chains to place on top. Looks kind of weird. Maybe if I warp it inwards like this? I think it actually looks kind of decent if it's not used too much. I'm gonna make the most simple color changes ever with slight changes in saturation and brightness while also changing the hue. We can just go back and forth, maybe no hue change at all. I'm just gonna change the fade time. It's like the ugliest color ever, and it's just gonna keep going. This is so funny, actually. Okay, and at times we can make the background fade itself back and forth. So we can do like an orange shift, and then we can do a purple shift. We should just do that for the transition and leave it at purple, because I actually quite like how the background changes just keep going. It goes blue away from purple. This is neat! Yo, I found the cheat code. Then I'm gonna have to make a pulsing loop for the 2 colors that are on the gradient, which are 5, and we can go number 6. On a loop here, these 2 colors should be very cool on the gradient. Yes, okay, this is neat. Now I need to test, does this break the final part? I actually don't think it does. It doesn't. This looks fine. I want to decorate this part next because the multiple layers of the blocks gives me an idea. I think all I want to do is place an arrow here, which is going to be on black, but also give it an opacity, like 220. I'm just going to look at the 2 groups on these lines, 180 and 181. So we give one of these 180 like this, and then we just copy paste to give it 181. So as we go through, this arrow should go into place like that. Yeah, but it should be smaller and more pointy. I love that instead of rotating them, I'm just moving them down like this and just putting them in a good spot. Just feels like a very stylistic way to point. With the staircases in the level too, it kind of works. Okay, that's hype. They fit, and they're under the gradient. Everything's tinted nicely. This works so well, dude. I can't believe it. Wait a second. I just thought of how to make this section cooler. I'm going to take all of the objects here. We're going to have them all tinted black with an area tint to start off with. So let's tint them to color channel number 7, group 221. Around the player, they're going to go around us in like a circle, and the length is going to be pretty short, maybe a little bit varied. That did nothing. Interesting. Ah. Okay, that's not quite as smooth as I thought it was going to be. First off, remove that disgusting variation, increase the length. Trying to do a thing where these blocks light up as we get there. This is neater. Dude, I'm not going to lie. This might just be another case where I'm just taking the blocks and just replicating them with some extra bits of deco here and there, because I think these stars are going to work really nicely. And I want them to have that tint effect. I want them to have the scaling effect. Like, it's just cool. It kind of shows the pathway and how much to jump. Any decoration I would have placed would have kind of been out of place. I'm thinking about just zooming the level in to hide the fact that there's not much detail. I really hope it works. I think it actually might. This is cool. Now it's just the ball part left to decorate, and this should be pretty simple, just copying the glow effect and putting it on portals, etc. T3 can definitely change down to like B2, just so it doesn't go over the top of the player or the portal. I forgot to commentate this, but for the arrows and stuff in this part, I just shrank them down and slapped the exact same glow that I've been using in this ball part. I actually just turned these horizontal. I'm just making them really wide jump indicators because I just think it fit the vibe of the part more. Dude, at some points in this level, I absolutely snapped, and at some points, I'm just not even trying at all. This is really funny. That spike actually looks good. I'm mad. Okay, honestly, the rest of the structures, like the spikes and stuff, I'm gonna make scale like the rest. Let's just put this in a good spot, and then we're just gonna look at what group this is. 14. We're gonna put 14 on this entire thing, just so it scales up and goes into place. Then I'm just gonna link one of these pillars. This can be like the extra layer of spikes that we were looking for here. This part looks so smooth. Okay, honestly, I know this is kind of a joke video and it's not really meant to be a good level, but it's really fun just to make a simple level really quickly. I'm gonna make another classic scaling effect real quick, just while I remember. All of these objects, at least, the saw blades can come too. They're gonna scale 2 to 3 around 2 to 2. This is gonna be so easy. We just put a sign in zoom 1 second where these scale up like 20 times. It's just gonna zoom up. Okay, that's horribly timed. Dude, geez. Let's try and ease in something like this. Dude, they just go off the screen and get enveloped in white screen. That is so cool. Oh my gosh, that's the object? Holy. But it's genuinely super fun just to build a really simple level like this with just any ideas you can pull out and just see how quickly you can make it and just see what techniques you find for fast building and see if you enjoy it more. Because this is such a cool experience, just finishing a level so fast with whatever idea you can possibly think of. These spikes look so cool when they're scaling. This part is actually one of the smoothest parts in the entire level. I think the fluidity of the background is really helping, but just the way this has come together so quickly, just by making the core ideas first, adding the decoration in post, that transition kind of sucks, but it's fine. Just adding extra detail once the part's idea is already done is such a valuable process, and I really recommend it for anyone that is kind of struggling with ideas or just wants to make a level and just remember what it's like, because I know building levels when everything's a huge project can be a massive burden, right? It's such a huge undertaking to be like, yep, I'm gonna start and finish an entire level, especially when the standards are so high, but just lower them for yourselves and you get cool product like this. This is, what's the level called again? Cool Verge Spin by Wulzy. Dude, I'm so proud of this level. I made it so quick. I'm just gonna upload this, dude. Thank you so much for watching this Geometry Dash video. It's the longest video I've uploaded in a while, I know. Let it be an inspiration. Hope that little name flip was funny. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching this Geometry Dash level building video. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day.